What's happening in Kildare is nothing short of madness. So right now in Kildare, we're going to speak about a few things here, but right now in Kildare, you have pods erected in the middle of a field. Hundreds of them. And there's going to be more of these pods put up in other locations in Kildare that possibly will house 3,000 Ukrainian refugees. You heard that number, right? So if this one's successful, they're going to make more of them. And the locals are outraged. Why would you do this? Has Ireland not already done its fair share of looking after people? You might think to yourself that maybe Ireland doesn't want the war between Russia and Ukraine to end because they're benefiting from this situation. And how could they be benefiting from this situation? Well, a crazy person, a whack job might say that they're importing cheap labour. A lot of them don't work. Well, a lot of them do. And that gives the government wiggle room in regards to the economy. So, for instance, if I go for a job and I'm met with said person not from Ireland and they go for the same job and they're going to do the exact same job for less money, who do you think that company is going to give the job to? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. So this is where they're really crumbling Ireland. And you're hearing this all over when it comes to, I was listening to a panel last night on YouTube, Lady of Ire, and she said that whenever she was working in the kitchens, the boss brought in a couple of people not of Ireland, I'll call them that, and they shadowed her whenever she was cooking and stuff, and they learned from what she was doing, and then eventually, as time went on, they knew what they were doing, and she was basically pushed out of the job. And you would say that she was pushed out of the job because they're going to pay the other people less. I'm assuming that. Don't quote me on that, but I'm assuming that. So if you've got a big business and you want to make lots of money, let's talk about business here, then you would say that you would rather have workers that you're going to pay less so you can keep most of the profit. And this is capitalism ran amok. So I'm a capitalist, I'm not a socialist, definitely not a communist. Those things have been trialed and tested, but we have to acknowledge that capitalism in Ireland has ran amok, and they're using the dumb socialists and the dumb communists to fight their fight. So you have these advocates for more immigration into Ireland, where little towns like Kildare are decimated. Pods are erected to how they could only barely house your dog, and they're saying that a family of five is going to fit into one of these things. Very, very inhumane. But it's all under the alias that this is to help the population of war-torn countries. But in reality, it's the political class and the business class and the upper class that owns the vast percentage of the companies in Ireland that really, really want this immigration because they're seeing this as cheap labour. Modern day slavery. And it doesn't surprise me because if you look back in the day, back into America, I'm not totally rehearsed on American politics or black American politics and history. But I'm led to believe it was the Democrats that held a lot of slaves, and it was the Democrats that benefited, rich Democrats that benefited from slavery. And now ironically, they're the ones pointing the finger at everybody else, saying that everybody else is racist, when it was them and their self-guilt that is destroying America as we know it. I'm sure there's a lot of different in-betweens into that, but that's what I'm led to believe. And actually, on a side note to that, if you know about Boston at the minute, there's a lot of migrants that have moved into wealthy democratic areas of not just Boston, but all over America. And the Democrats are up in arms about it because they don't want their areas ruined. So, ha ha ha, you got what you asked for. So, back on to Kildare and the business class and the political class. So you think to yourself, well, it's the political class and the business class and the upper class that's benefiting from this because they have shares in with companies and they own companies that take up the vast percentage of the companies in Ireland that benefit from migration, illegal migration, refugees, i.e. cheap labour. And they want that because they have to, basically in the long run, they're using that as leverage in the economy so they can pay people less. You know, it's not the Ukrainians' fault. It's not the immigrants' fault. They're just looking for a better life and they're going to take it. But then you hear stories from Ukraine, and I've seen videos from Ukraine where, okay, there's a war going on, but there's places in Ukraine where it seems fine. And not only that, you hear of Ukrainians and the Independent and some left-leaning news organizations and state media reporting that Ukrainians are going back to Ukraine for better health care and better dental care. So who really is at war? Well, it seems like the Irish people and the Western people are in war with their political system, while other countries are in actual physical war with other tyrannical systems. Neither's good. Why would a Ukrainian refugee travel back to their own country for better health care and dental care? Sure, have they not come here for a better life? You don't travel back to the country you came from to get access to better facilities. It should be devastating over there. It should be all the dentists have been blown up and you can't see a dentist anywhere and there's people hiding under the ground. Would it be wrong in thinking that? That's my question to the radical left. These are being played like good ones, by the way. That's to the radical left. So then, little towns like Kildare, pods are being erected, and the government has told them, if you protest outside the front of the gate where these pods are being erected, we are going to arrest you. We are going to imprison you. And that is 100% unconstitutional. Because the government is there and the court systems are there and the law system is there for justice and to uphold justice. That's why we live in a society with a policing system that is supposed to be unbiased. So if somebody commits a crime or if the people are unhappy about something, we have the right to protest and to stop things from happening. If there's enough people that are against a certain thing happening, we protest and the government listens to us. But in this case, they're not doing this because they're not listening to us. They're listening to the political class and the upper class that want this. Crazy. So you have every right to block those pods going up. You have every right to stop what's happening in your area because that is your area. You have grown up there. You have lived in this area. Why is it that there's foreign nationals at the protests also? You see Hungarians, you see Ukrainians. When you speak to Ukrainians, they're like, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. I would be unhappy about this also. Then you're hearing stories from Ukrainians that are living in England and they're saying we don't want to put our children into schools because it's too diverse. We want our children to have traditional Christian values and not to be corrupted by that type of system. We want our children, and I actually said to myself, wow, are those people far right too? Just look into the history of Ukraine and who they clapped in Canada and praised in Canada, who fought against the Russians in World War II. Justin Trudeau praised the Nazi. So nothing is as it seems. And it's supposed to be confusing, because if it is confusing, then they can implement all the nasty things into the background. And then I watch people, very, very articulate people like Peter Dooley-Dublin, who is constantly on a day-to-day basis exposing what the political class is doing to Dublin with Rathmines and all the different hotels that are being used in the homeless crisis and things like that. So, yeah, do you know what I mean? So think about that. I want you to think about that. The Kildare representatives, the TDs, the councillors, the local representatives, the people that are supposed to represent the community have all been corrupted, and they're all owned by the corruption that Leo Varadkar has allowed to infiltrate Ireland. You think to yourself, is there not one politician in that area that's going to stand up and say, no, we're not going to allow this to happen? And no, you're not going to arrest local people for not wanting basically a glorified concentration camp. Maybe that's too strong of a word. It's not a concentration camp, but a glorified slavery to happen in their area. We're not going to have this. We're not going to have you bring in these people to house them in fields like cattle, to then use those same people as leverage in the economy for wages. Oh yes, well, people are going to come in and say, well, there's the minimum wage. Everybody will get the same minimum wage. Not when it comes to privatised jobs. That will change the whole economy when it comes to cheap labour. It changes the whole economy. And at the same time, rising the prices of rent the whole way around Ireland. Think about that. I want you to think about that. It's the long game plan. And they've told you that we're going to do this with Agenda Ireland. I think it was Agenda Ireland 2030, 2040. And they said to you, we're going to bring in 1 million more people. And nobody listened. A few people listened. But what is the reason for that? That's for an economy reason. But that not for economy growth. Everybody thought it was for economy growth. It was basically, if you look at it now for what they're doing, they're not bringing in 1 million more people that are vetted. They're bringing in 1 million people. Half of them are unvetted, undocumented males, fighting fit males. Coming from countries that have radical ideologies where women don't even have rights. A Ukrainian will tell you that. I'm not talking about Ukraine. I'm talking about a lot of the boyos coming over from Africa and the Middle East. That's my opinion on it. The people of Kildare should be represented fully. Somebody should be there willing to take one for the team that is a TD, a representative, or whatever you call them, that's going to stand out the front of there and say, no, we're not having this. We are not tolerant. I'm not going to be tolerant of this anymore. We're not going to allow you to bring people over here and house them in fields like cattle and use them against us in the economy. This is our place. These are our values. These are our towns. And if people want to come in here, yes, we will help refugees, but we will not house them like cattle. We will not fill out our hotels, 50% of our hotels. We will not destroy our tourist trade. And we will put a cap on refugees, and we will have a vetting process for refugees coming in here. No rapists, murderers, or paedophiles. We have enough of them already in Ireland. We don't want to import more, so we need a heavy vetting process. And we will promote people to come into this country via legal immigration, skilled labour and skilled people that will come into Ireland that will benefit society. Anybody that says that is considered far right and a bigot, because that's what they want you to think. They want people to shy away. It's becoming a regular thing now where people call me a bigot and far right and all these things. Well, I'm not far right. I'm never accept being called far right. I'm not far right. I'm right so far. And I'm not saying I'm right about all of that. I'm sure there's an economist can come in there and completely dismantle what I've said and explain to me in depth about all different reasons. But I think the baseline of what I've said there is right. They're not bringing in 1 million people just to benefit Ireland. To bring the political class and the business class and the upper class are bringing in 1 million more people to benefit them, not us, because it's cheap work for them. While we're all politically divided at the bottom, we can't. There's some people, a lot of people in Ireland don't even want to say what a male and female is anymore. So if we can't even understand what a male and female is anymore, how can we understand the inner workings of the future economy with millions more people coming into Ireland unvetted? How can we understand that if we don't even understand what a male and female is? Well, I know what a male and female is. You know what a male and female is, but there's a lot of people in schools teaching children that tell children that it's a social construct and there's no such thing. So they're corrupting the children from the bottom. So they're corrupted whenever they grow older. They turn into little mini Hitlers, Antifa members that want to just destroy society. While the business and political class bring in 1 million more people unvetted, basically half of them unvetted, armed, some of them armed with a radical, dangerous ideology that will work for pittance, and they will be used against us in the economy when we go for the jobs. Well, why should it take you, sir? You're going to cost us double, and he can do the same job for half. This is capitalism ran amok. This is where there needs to be a governing body to step in here and say, no, this isn't happening. This is how the economy of Ireland is ran, and this is the way it will stay. And the only time it should be changed is when it's going to benefit the people of Ireland. That's how I feel about it. So the people in Kildare need to know that their voice is heard. And is there anybody in that place that's going to stand up for them and say, look, I'm not having this. This can't happen. We can't allow these people to just come into Kildare. 3,000 of them. There's going to be 1,000 of them put into one encampment. It looks like a military encampment. And you're saying that these tiny little pods are going to house a family. Wouldn't house a dog. My dog house is bigger. Crazy. And don't tell me that they're just for Ukrainians, because they will be used for other things. That's a lot of money being spent to erect them. They will be used. That will turn into a little mini economy of its own. It'll be like something out of Scarface. That's what it's going to be like. If you ever watched the start of Scarface, where they house them all underneath the highway, and it turns into a ghetto. Creating ghettos in Ireland. I'm not saying the Ukrainians are, Irish people put into a field, Christian Irish people put into a field, in the little tiny boxes, it would turn into a ghetto. I'm not talking about race or religion. I'm saying that would happen. And they're willing to do that and ruin towns and places like Kildare, and to destroy Irish heritage. Where's the Irish Heritage Society in this? Should they not be out here saying, this is disgusting? No way. Don't be ruining our place for this. This isn't a far right view. This is me saying that there's better ways of doing this. Ireland has took in enough refugees. We can't take any more. And I suppose that will lead me on to the other subject that will end on this here. Ireland doesn't want the war in... Leo Varadkar and the political class doesn't want the war in Ukraine to end. They are actively against people like Donald Trump. If Donald Trump gets into power, by the way, I'm not a big Trumpster. I'm not a big fan of Trump. But I know for a fact if Donald Trump gets into power, he will end that war and Israel and Palestine in the first 3 months. They will cease to exist. What does that tell you? So you would think to yourself, why are people like Varadkar and Biden, well, obviously we know Biden's against him, and Nikki Haley and Zelensky. Zelensky said that he's going to surrender if Trump gets back to being the president. He's going to surrender. Why do you think that is? Because his funding will be cut and the war will cease to exist. But it's people like Varadkar that want the war to keep going because they are owned by Europe, and in Europe they want that war to continue. And know this, anything that's being told to you in the mainstream media, i.e. RTE, BBC and all the state medias, it's all a pack of lies. It's there to corrupt your mind, penetrate your psyche, and to destroy your opinions and corrupt you and your children. You need to know that. And if this reaches one person, that message, and they just detox away from that shit, you will wake up and go, wow, I've been living in a bubble for most of my life. I haven't watched the BBC, RT, or mainstream TV since the start of COVID. Because I just knew. And I feel a lot better for it, a lot more awake. It's hard though. It is hard, I'm not going to lie to you, because whenever you're around people that are still stuck in the bubble, and they're talking about the latest game show, or you're thinking, oh, you're stuck, man. You're stuck. And they'll give off to you for maybe, oh, what are you watching that for? That's a bit boring, isn't it? How can you sit and watch a 3-hour documentary on the gold standard to the Federal Reserve? That's boring. Just come and watch this documentary or come and watch this game show where all these clowns are clapping each other on the back for 5 grand. It's a lonely world, man. It's a lonely, lonely world, and I'm here for yous, and yous are here for me, and yous know who I'm talking to. It's very, very lonely, and it's and you realise that most of your life you've been lied to. You've been lied to. That's why there's a lot of people now in their 30s, between your 30s and 40s, that have actually went back to Christianity after years of being an atheist, because they've realised, they went, wow, I actually was pushed away from that. And I should have listened to my grannies and my grandads because they were right. Do you know what I mean? So, crazy times, people. Crazy, crazy times. My heart goes out to the people in Kildare. Keep fighting. Don't stop fighting. Remember, if you want to fight for something, there is going to be casualties. There is going to be people put into prison. There is going to be people, but do it peacefully. Never ever throw the first blow. I said this whenever I got into a confrontation with Antifa. They pushed us onto the road. They attacked us. It wasn't a heavy attack, but it was an attack. I could have sparked that big, lanky soap dodger clean out and put his jaw in a brace, in a steel cage, if I really, really wanted to. And that's not a good thing. That's not anger from me. But I didn't. Why did I not do that? Because it would be me that would be persecuted against for doing that. I would be put into prison, even though that he attacked me first, even though he came over to us first. They're paid by the government. They're evil. So you can't, as much as you can hurt these people, or you can fight with your fists, today you're coming to a drone fight with a pea shooter. So the best thing that you can do is do it peacefully, have your voice heard, go out, and if you're arrested for doing something peacefully, that will be totally eradicated in the courts. That's the way I see it. But yes, guys, crazy times ahead. I hope everybody's well. Make sure to smash the like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Leave a comment and tell me what you think, and share too. And that's it, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in, and have a good Saturday. Peace out.